In global politics, clashes between African leaders and Western powers rarely make headlines, unless they are explosive. Over the past year, few figures have generated as much shock, intrigue, and viral attention as Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso's 36-year-old leader. Young, fiery, and unafraid, to speak bluntly, Traoré has built a reputation as the African president who says what others only whisper. When former U.S. President Donald Trump rolled out sweeping tariffs under his second administration, few expected any African leader to respond so directly. Yet, against all odds, Traoré not only pushed back, he allegedly delivered a humiliating rebuke that went viral across platforms, with headlines screaming, "What Traoré said to Trump will shock you." Some of the quotes attributed to Traoré are disputed, some clips possibly edited, but the impact of his defiance has been undeniable. His words, whether in formal speeches or viral snippets, have positioned him as a symbol of Africa's growing refusal to be treated as a passive bystander in global trade wars. This is the story of how Traoré took aim at Trump's tariffs, the viral firestorm that followed, and why this confrontation, real or exaggerated, has become a rallying cry across Africa. When Donald Trump returned to power, one of his first economic moves was to reignite his protectionist playbook. Tariffs, his favorite tool of leverage, were rolled out across multiple sectors, from steel and cars to agricultural products. His administration declared it was about fair trade and protecting American jobs. But in Africa, the message landed differently. Tariffs meant higher barriers for exports already struggling to compete. Burkina Faso, a landlocked West African country with fragile trade routes, was not among Trump's primary targets, yet the ripple effects were severe. The new tariffs raised the cost of key exports, cotton, raw agricultural goods, and minerals, while simultaneously making U.S. goods harder to import. Most leaders might have quietly swallowed the blow, hoping aid or diplomatic negotiations would ease the pressure. But Traoré broke the silence. At a regional meeting, he reportedly declared, "You call it tariffs. I call it chains. Chains that stop Africa from breathing." The statement, picked up by African outlets, quickly snowballed into a viral narrative. Traoré had humiliated Trump by exposing tariffs as a disguised form of neo-colonial control. What made this moment electrifying wasn't simply the words, it was the audacity. No African leader in recent memory had dared to call out Trump in such terms. For ordinary Africans frustrated by decades of trade dependency, Traoré's defiance felt like a spark in dry grass. In the viral clips, Traoré's rhetoric was fiery, uncompromising, and raw. He painted tariffs not as economic policies, but as weapons of control. They came with chains disguised as contracts. They came with tariffs on our exports. This wasn't just about economics. It was about history. To Traoré, tariffs imposed by global powers echo the old colonial methods: block opportunities, control trade, and keep African nations reliant on Western aid. His framing was simple yet devastating. Tariffs are modern-day shackles. For Trump, tariffs were about leverage. For Traoré, they were about domination. The clash of perspectives couldn't be more stark. And in the world of social media, stark narratives spread like wildfire. Within hours, African activists, influencers, and pro-sovereignty channels began sharing Traoré's quotes, captioning them with lines like, "Finally someone said it," and "Africa is not afraid anymore." Though skeptics pointed out that some of the viral footage might have been selectively edited, the impact was irreversible. Fact or exaggerated fiction, Traoré's message had tapped into a well of frustration. Africa's trade rules have too often been dictated by others, leaving local economies vulnerable. In this sense, the humiliation of Trump's tariffs wasn't about a direct personal insult. It was about something larger, the unmasking of a system millions believe keeps Africa poor while others grow rich. The reaction was explosive. Hashtags like Traoré vs Trump and Africa Unchained trended across African Twitter, now X, and Facebook. YouTube videos with titles such as "Traoré destroys Trump's tariffs in 2 minutes flat" racked up hundreds of thousands of views. For ordinary Africans, especially the youth, this wasn't just about tariffs. It was about dignity. Traoré's words became a mirror of their own frustrations with an unfair world order. Memes circulated comparing Trump's tariffs to colonial-era tax policies, with Traoré portrayed as the warrior breaking the chains. But reactions outside Africa were divided. Western analysts dismissed much of the hype as viral exaggeration, noting that no official record exists of Traoré confronting Trump in person. Some outlets like Yahoo News even flagged one viral clip as fake or manipulated. Still, in the digital era, perception often outweighs documentation. For Trump supporters, the notion that a young African leader could humiliate him was laughable. For his critics, it was symbolic, proof that his tariff policies alienated even those far beyond America's borders. Whether the words were spoken exactly as quoted mattered less than the fact that millions believed they were. Here's where the story blurs. While the internet was ablaze with headlines about Traoré humiliating Trump, reality was less cinematic. No formal meeting between Traoré and Trump has been confirmed in official records. Some of the most shared clips were later identified as edited or out of context. Trump's tariff policies were global in scope. China and Europe were his main targets, not specifically Burkina Faso. Yet dismissing the whole saga as fake news misses the point. Viral stories succeed not because they are perfectly accurate, but because they resonate with something true. Traoré's broader critique that Western trade rules, tariffs, and sanctions often strangle African economies is hard to deny. Even cautious analysts admitted that the symbolism mattered more than the literal facts. Traoré may not have sat across the table from Trump, but his speeches about tariffs and exploitation directly challenged the system Trump represented. Thus, the humiliation narrative lives on, not as a factual transcript, but as a digital myth that empowers a new generation. Whether or not the confrontation happened exactly as portrayed, the effect is historic. Traoré has been cast as a symbol of resistance, embodying Africa's rising demand for sovereignty in trade, politics, and resources. For decades, African leaders have carefully measured their words with Western powers. Traoré has flipped the script. He speaks bluntly, calls out exploitation, and embraces the role of disruptor. That makes him a hero to some and a threat to others. The Trump tariffs humiliation story has cemented him as an icon of defiance. It is now part of his larger narrative, standing up to France, rejecting Western military ties, and championing Pan-African alliances. Ultimately, the real humiliation wasn't a single quote or viral clip. It was the exposure of an uncomfortable truth. The old economic order is being challenged by voices once dismissed as irrelevant, and that challenge is only growing louder. The headlines screamed, "Traoré humiliates Trump!" The reality is more nuanced. Some quotes may have been exaggerated, some videos manipulated. But behind the viral storm lies a powerful truth. African nations are no longer willing to sit silently as global trade rules are written without them. Whether he personally cornered Trump or not, Traoré has become a lightning rod for change. His words, real or amplified, echo across a continent hungry for dignity. And if this viral saga proves anything, it's that in the age of social media, the perception of defiance can be just as powerful as the act itself.